So being that this is our first Beatles record and we wanted you on for a while and it just worked out perfectly, um, you know, tell me your history with the Beatles. The first time you heard them, take me there.
I don't remember. Go ahead. Next question. Let's see. The first time I heard the Beatles. Well, I'm an old man. I've just turned 49. Thank you. Thanks for the wishes, guys. It was less than a week
Yeah.
ago.
Wait,
Anyway,
wait, wait. I'm November 14th.
November 20th for me, my friend.
Oh, Sag or Scorp?
Don't know and don't care.
Okay. All
No,
right.
everyone asked me that, and then they're like, I swear to you, in high school, I was at a party, and this girl goes, she brought this thing up. She goes, well, what's your astrological sign? And I'm like, guess. And she guessed everyone except for Scorpio. And she thought I was fucking with her. And I was like, no, you still haven't said mine. And she goes, I've said them all. I've said all 12 or however there are. And I was like, no, you haven't. And then she goes, well, what are you? And I was like, Scorpio. And then she goes, totally. And I was like, you know what? And I look, I understand if it helps people and they're fans of it. But when I look at the list of like characteristics, I'm like, well, yeah, that's me. Maybe I'm a Pisces on a good day or
Yes, we're
a
all
Cancer on a bad day. Who knows? But I'm just like,
Yeah.
just like it was like, oh wait, the person was born at 6:53 a.m. on a Thursday in September. Oh well, your life is determined. I just don't. I know that right now, people who love astrology
They hate you.
are
They hate
turning
you.
this off. But
They're like,
I gotta plant the flag somewhere, folks.
they're like, Ringo was a Pisces.
And that meant and so
Whatever that means.
I like that, and that's why he got the job over Pete Best. And I was like, or maybe he was a better drummer
He was a better drummer.
and better songwriter. So let's see. I can't tell you when I first heard the Beatles because my parents listened to the Beatles. So a lot like Luciano Pavarotti and a couple of other singers that my parents listened to, like John Denver, and my dad listened to a ton of opera and to a French singer named Nina. And so there are these weird things, and Elton John, like so there are these songs in my brain that have become, they're like folk song or like the songs of my tribe where you just grew up. Like I will be able to tell you the lyrics to, I don't know, well, Let It Be or Two of Us or something like that. Just like I could tell you Ring Around the Rosie or I don't know, the Pledge of Allegiance. And so I do know that I was born in Rome. Thank you. You guys know that though, because you were on my Wikipedia.
For sure.
But my dad had an original pressing of Abbey Road. And he also cut out this picture of the Beatles for some reason, and it was in Italian, the little blurb, and he just pasted it to the back of the album. And my brother has that to this day. And then my aunt was a teenager in the 60s, and she moved from Vancouver, BC, where my mom's family lived, to Rome. And she saw the Beatles numerous times and met them backstage because she was like this big. I'm saying she's big because she is 5'11". She is a 5'11", blonde-haired American girl who
she's a power forward for the Seattle Stars.
Yeah, basically. And she kind of like when in the 60s, there wasn't a lot of just blonde teenagers, living in Rome with their parents. And so she was able to get backstage and she met all of them. And she has given me and my brothers some of the 45s that she had, and which I still have right now, which I'm like, do I frame them? What do I do with them? I'm scared. And so, but when I really got into the Beatles, I can tell you like 7th grade was the summer of Pink Floyd, The Wall. And that was like a thing. And then, but that was 7th grade, but like in 5th grade, my friend Dominic DeLeo, he was a big Beatles fan, and I feel like my love affair with the Beatles I feel like we did what teenagers did, which is you start out with Please Please Me or Love Me Do or something. And by the end of high school, it was like, are we going to listen to, what was that, Shaved Fish or something, whatever Lennon's crazy singles that were coming out. But that said, so I'm trying to, I'm trying to think of like albums that I wore out to their very end. I think and I know this is such a common thing to say, but like the second side of Abbey Road is just this
It's
absolute
the greatest thing ever.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. And then like with like on Revolver with Tomorrow Never Knows, that song could have been released 20 years later, 30 years later. And obviously
Yeah.
Phil Collins' version I thought was outstanding. That was on the album Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. So it was a Genesis album. Or was it on, boy, I'm getting this all wrong.
Dude,
Maybe
you're
it was.
blowing my mind that Phil Collins did Tomorrow Never
Oh, and
Knows. I'm like,
it's
what?
great. It's really good. Anyway, so I don't have the moment where I went, and then Beatles for Sale dropped into my lap. And that was, I do remember going to Cellophane Square in Bellevue Square. Cellophane Square was a store in Bellevue Square, which is one of the biggest malls. Well, it's not one of the biggest, it's super successful. But we would go in there all the time. And I remember the Beatles, I guess it was Here, There, and Everywhere. No, with the babies, the dead babies, and the steak cover, right?
Yeah.
And they were selling it for $200, and they had 3 of them. And I was like, $200? Who do you think I am, Richie Rich? What am I? Bill Gates can just walk around just spending $200? And then I found out that Garth Brooks bought them all because
Yeah.
they're valuable and rare, obviously, and I kick myself all the time. And I saw Paul McCartney play for the Flowers in the Dirt tour,
Oh, wow.
where he had the updated version of Love Me Do, which
Yeah.
is fine. I do remember that when he played Live and Let Die, when the cannons went off, my friend Jason Burns' contact flew out of his eye because of the concussion, because it was in the Kingdom, which is like a dome. It was a cement room. The
Yeah.
Kingdom, which is now no longer there, and I was there the day they blew it up.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so I don't have that specific moment, but I will say I spent so much of my life going, the Beatles are my favorite band. The Beatles are my
Yeah.
favorite band. And because you hear it all the time, because they changed everything, and then people go like, yeah, but what about the Rolling Stones? I'm like, at no point did I say I
The
guess
Rolling Stones weren't good. Yeah.
yeah,
But there's
yeah,
something about the Beatles that it's like all the music that came after the Beatles is influenced by the Beatles. So
yes.
even if you don't like, I'm a huge Beatles fan. I have the Beatles Apple for Apple Studios tattooed to my arm. I remember
And
like
that's the only tattoo you have.
that's that and,
But granted, okay, you're like, I got that Apple tattoo on my arm. I was like, you also probably have a grocery lister there somewhere, like on an ankle or something. You're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna put it on my ankle right here, baby.
100%, 100%. But there's something about the Beatles that transcends music. It's like everything about them was that they started with Love, Love Me Do, and then they finished with Abbey Road and Her Majesty. It's just they kept changing. And
Yeah,
so
and I don't think, yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And you know this. I mean, the how quickly it all happened. The span of time is so short that they
so
went
short.
from Love Me Do to the second side of Abbey Road. It's so short. And there's that famous thing where when they first started taping with George Martin, they taped 11 songs in one day. They taped an album in one day and a masterpiece in one day. And
Yeah.
the light speed that they were, and for mostly white people, they're the basically the invention of counterculture
Yeah.
was something that they did. Obviously, there were a lot of other forces at work, but like even back then, my dad and his friends would be like, "Oh, when we saw those haircuts, man, it was like aliens had landed. Nobody had that. That was a whole new thing." Anyway, I interrupted you.
No. And then 2 weeks
Again.
later, they were hippies, which is so great. That's
Which
what's
is,
so
yeah.
it's
I
like
mean,
that.
the
It's like
only thing I can liken it to is I don't. This is not a good comparison, but like you're a freshman in high school and you're 98 pounds, and I don't know, you just came out of Catholic school, or
Yeah.
you were raised Mormon, or you were raised very, and by senior year, I don't know what to compare. Like, I don't know.
You're LeVar
You,
Arrington,
yeah,
you're
you look like
300
Robert
pounds
Smith
out.
from The Cure or
Yeah,
something,
yeah, yeah.
or you're a 300-pound middle linebacker who's got a teardrop tattoo. So that is how dramatic the change was, and
So
yeah.
which is incredible for a band to be able to do that in 6 years. But let's focus on Let It Be, because now I know you're a
No,
huge
I don't
fan.
want to. I've decided I
Dude,
don't want to talk about that
we
album.
have to, because that's the
No,
record that's on the
I
dude.
want to
But
talk
that's
about Peppermint Alarm Clock. Isn't that the
okay.
name? Yeah.
Wait, is that the incense, peppermints, ripples in time?
Yes, nice.
Dude, I love that song.
I think
So
that's a good
tell me,
song.
so being that you know the whole Beatles catalog and you know the history of the Beatles, which
Does
this
Neil deGrasse Tyson know this much about the albums that he was?
dude, he knows everything and where it's placed, not just in the 500 greatest albums list, but where it's placed in the constellations of the universe.
Okay,
So
I'm not going to be as good,
you're
but
not going to be as
I'm
good.
just going to make shit up. That's what I'm
Oh,
going to do.
please. So, but let's talk about this record, because from what we know about this record is this is almost the sound of the Beatles breaking up.
Yep.
Because of the history about it. Paul wanted to go back out on the road. None of the Beatles wanted to do that.
George
So
hated them at that point, right? He was
hated
like, "I'm out," and he would just
yeah,
leave.
for sure. But this is their attempt at doing almost like a concert video. That's what they kind of agreed upon. And we got those notes coming up later. But this is what's funny, is that I love the Beatles so much. I always looked at this record as great. And now, having read all the information and really did a deep dive on the other albums to prep for this, it's like you can almost hear that this is a Beatles record, but it's almost not. So tell me your thoughts on Let It Be.
I mean, it's still when you look at okay, it is obviously it's a Beatles record, right?
Okay.
Is it not? You just think it's a collection of songs that they were like,
I,
well, this is what we got. I mean,
I think this is all Paul. That's what
I
I
think.
think. This
Yeah,
is a
you
Paul
can tell
McCartney
because
record.
you listen to that "Let It Be Naked" thing,
Yeah.
which came out in 2009 or something, where it's not that interesting. But I'm just like, oh, these are just mic tests that they're doing. But you can hear Paul be like, if they wanted to, they can do it. If they don't want to come with us, that's fine. I'm like, oh man, that guy is trying to keep John and George from murdering each other.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
you hear Ringo going like, can I just play? I'd like to play a song. Can we just play a little song? I'd like to play. But didn't this happen with what? It wasn't like between like they were like, well, Abbey Road. They recorded a bunch of that stuff like around the same time and as the White Album, and like correct me. You correct me because I'm not sure. It
So
seemed like they were producing all this stuff and they were like, well, I don't know, except for maybe the second half. Because remember how like with Abbey Road, John was like, I just want it to be some simple, fun, good rock songs.
yeah.
And Paul's like, I'm writing a symphony. So
Yeah.
so you tell me.
So from my understanding, is the Beatles went to make this, and they were also working on Abbey Road as well. Then this kind of fell apart, and then before they broke up, they were like, let's get one more studio record with George Martin, and that's how you got Abbey Road. This was released afterwards because they were gonna kind of like throw it away. They were like, they weren't even going to use it, and they were like, but I think that's why they gave it to Phil Spector. Phil Spector then took it, turned it into this, which isn't a bad record, because there are some great songs on it that are iconic in the Beatles library. But
and he didn't, and during it, he didn't murder anyone, so that's a real bonus.
Didn't murder anybody.
What a crazy person.
Aren't we kind of glad that he did? Like Phil Spector, the legend.
No,
of
not
him.
glad.
No? Okay.
I'm not.
All right.
Did you ever used to watch the Conan bit that he would do? It was point counterpoint.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch that bit he would do with he and Andy would call point counterpoint, and then they would be like, "All right, do you want to pick point or counterpoint?" And they'd be like, "I'll pick counterpoint," and Conan would always take point, and they're like, "All right, what's the topic?" And they're like, "Murder." And then they were like, "You go first, Andy," and Andy would like do this really big, like he was like, "How am I supposed to defend murder?" And then he would go into like this 5-minute build up to why murder might be okay of certain people. And at the end, Conan would be like, "You're a horrible person. Murder's awful." And so anyway,
Yeah, but we don't get that. We don't get the film with Al Pacino as Phil Spector. So and I kind of like
You
that.
know what? The
Mike Nichols
murder's
directed
worth
it.
it. The
That's what it's
murder is
worth.
worth it. Oh yeah, we didn't get Saving Private Ryan, amazing movie. Wouldn't have happened without World War II.
Needed
Uh,
Hitler. A lot of good
so
movies.
wait, so what we? Oh, so I interrupted your explanation. So there was it was
So,
being made around the same time, not as the
so
White Album, not
So
as
so the so basically, just to sum it up, is like Paul wanted to go back on tour, the rest of the band didn't. So they were
right,
like, let's do it. He got him to say, let's do a concert video. And
right,
then they decided to do this. They started filming, and basically this, like I said, is the disintegration of the Beatles. So they were gonna break up. But then Paul convinced them to do one more studio album, which is Abbey Road. And then this was brought out and released after Phil Spector saved it, and then this is what we get. And then years later, Paul comes out and says how much he hates it. He does Let It Be Naked. So this is a Beatles record, but it's
yeah.
not George. It's not George Martin the way that the Beatles had recorded everything else in the past. So knowing that all those other Beatles records and now have listened to this now, like, tell me your thoughts on this record.
Well, I like this record so much because I was born in 1971,
Okay.
and there's this weird part of me that was like, the Beatles did they did it all, and I wasn't even born. And it just all happened. And all these people I know, these older people are like, oh yeah, we went to that show. We did this. We loved that. And so there's a side of me that was like, and then I always got confused by Hey Jude because I could buy the album in the store, but then it was like, yeah, that never came out as an album. And I went,
Yeah.
wait, what's happened? That's why when I go over, like, if you people who are the four of you that will ever see this have gotten to this point in the podcast, if you look at the way Beatles albums were released or Beatles music was released, it's bananas. Where Capitol Records was just like, we need 4 more songs in the next 2 months, and they just kept shelling the American countryside with album after album, and I was like, wait, when was that? And then you're like, oh no, that was this collection of songs that wound up over here.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Anyway, Let It Be, I enjoy tremendously. And my experience with it is later, much like, came out later. I grew to love it because everyone knew Let It Be. And then I got confused by Let It Be because there was two different there was versions with a certain guitar, like the guitar solos were different on different versions. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, for sure.
And I suppose that's the Phil Spector of it all. And I know that then Paul went back and did some of that. I have no idea. You know better than me.
You're spot on. You're spot on right now. You're 100% because basically, Let It Be Naked is I think it's with George Martin, but Paul basically removed the wall of sound that Phil Spector added. So Paul hated a lot of the stuff. Like, he hated the sappy strings that are in Long and Winding Road. He hated the order of the songs.
I hate those too.
See,
and yet, the Long and Winding Road was a gigantic hit.
It's one of my favorite songs on this record, Like, this is the thing, is if you look at the track listing of Let It Be Naked and you look at the track listing of this, it's like that had Don't Let Me Down on it.
Which is
it
a
opens with
masterpiece.
Get Back. It's a masterpiece. And I'm not saying this is a bad record at all. Because, dude, I mean, even like, look here, let's just dive right into it and then we'll get into the tracks. Because, like, it opens with arguably my favorite Beatles song of all time. Also with one of the most iconic Beatle intros ever. So, Peter, play it for a second.
Do it.
Me and Duke, no. All right, kill it. So if anybody is wondering what that means, pygmy is a generic term for ethnic groups that have an extremely short average height, although classically it refers to the pygmies of Western Congo. And Charles Hawtrey was an old hat comedic actor in the 60s. Deaf aids is British English for hearing aids, and getting one's oats means for a female person to have sex. Lennon is thus humorously introducing the song as if it were a movie by Charles Hawtrey, an
Right.
unlikely deaf
And
aide called
yeah,
I
and
Dig a
he was
Baby.
so fucking high.
Oh, high
I
as
mean,
balls.
they had to peel him off the ceilings. And so,
This is heroin Lennon, by the way.
yeah,
This is
this,
like him and Yoko are just booting that black tar. So this was originally titled "We're on Our Way Home" and rehearsed in a rocking electric style before Paul got what he wanted. The bass part is actually played by George Harrison on a Fender Telecaster guitar.
hmm.
Now, although Paul says he wrote this about his then new relationship with Linda Eastman, others have suspected it might refer to his relationship with John. That's what I've always hoped, because it just feels like, knowing that this is the last record the Beatles put out, that this was kind of like a love song
Yeah, and
between Paul and John.
you and I have memories that are longer than the road ahead. That whatever that lyric
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I
yeah.
just destroyed.
I mean, it was all
Uh,
right.
it
That's
was
what a Pisces
terrible.
would have said.
You and I have memories longer than the road that stretches out ahead, and I guess the road stretches out ahead. So I always just saw this as such a like it starts the album, and it's such a warm
Yeah,
love song. It's
yeah.
so it's like a nice bowl of oatmeal with honey and cream, and I love this song. And it's such a sweet, simple song. And you're thinking, this is a Beatles album. This
Yeah.
is it. And you're like, and at the end of the first song, you're like, oh wow, this is such a nice thing. And it's there must have been, if it's about the breakup, then it's Paul very, just warmly remembering John. And but if it's about Linda, then yeah, I mean, it could very well be about her
I honestly,
because
God,
he was with her for what, 30 years or something.
yeah,
So
for a long time. You know what? It's funny. I definitely think this is about Linda, because, like we said, Paul wrote the majority of the songs on this record. But as a Beatles fan, even just like the reaction that you got, it's like there's something about us hoping that this is about those two iconic figures that just so happen to meet each other in this fucking weird thing that is life, and then create so much beautiful music for us. I mean,
yep,
you couldn't have said it better. This is matzo ball soup. It's Thanksgiving dinner. It's just comfort food, and it just reminds me of every reason that I love the Beatles,
right.
and like
And
in
much
little,
like Thanksgiving, you have to have all that other food to cover the
yeah.
bland, dry taste of turkey. So you're just surrounding it. So that's the turkey is the tumultuous relationship he has with John, and then the mashed potatoes and the cranberry and the gravy and the peas or whatever you're having, the roasted Brussels sprout. No, but
Oh,
yes,
keep
sorry, I
going,
interrupted.
dude. No, 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 dude. 'Cause I'm
No, and
starving
I
now.
love, Amy Mann does such a wonderful version of this song with her lovely husband, Michael Penn. I don't know if you ever heard it.
Love both of them. Love both
It
of
was on
them.
the Magnolia soundtrack.
Ooh, she does
Uh,
Save Me. I know Save Me because I learned that on guitar. But
it's going to have to be. It's not the
and there's
Magnolia
and
soundtrack.
then
It's
there's
on a.
Wake
You
Up.
know what? It's not. It's not. It's not. But it's a really good version, and I think for my money, it's the best version since
Oh,
it came
no,
out.
dude, it's on the I Am Sam soundtrack.
Yes,
It's
it's on
on
the I Am
yes.
sound.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
for
It's
sure.
great.
Y
Good memory.
Thank you.
Magnolia, yeah, she did Save Me, and she did a cover of One.
Yes,
Uh,
by Three
but
Dog Night.
yeah, Michael Penn, that No Myth, and that whole era. I can't recommend Michael Penn music enough. And of course, Amy Mann was a revelation when Till Tuesday came on the air, and did voices Carrie, which then as a kid, when I'm like fourth grade, I'm like, oh, this is about a boyfriend who's beating up his girlfriend. It's terrible. But anyway, I've met them a couple times, and I can't. I literally was like I couldn't talk. I was like, okay, well, I'll just show myself out. And
Oh,
anyway, so going back to, we're still talking about Two of Us,
two of us,
which
yeah.
yeah, I that it is one of those Beatles songs that I will never turn off, and
It's
it's
perfect.
just it is one of those ones. We all have those.
Yeah.
But I think if I have to hear Rocky Raccoon one more time, I'm gonna drill a hole in my head. But
We
sorry,
want
it's a
to come
wonderful
to the
song.
top, to the top, to
I
the top,
just
Rocky
it's a
Raccoon.
masterpiece, and that song was played. I went to CYO camp for like 10 years of my childhood, and they played that song, and everyone looked forward to it, and I did. What I couldn't stand later on, I would listen to Breakfast with the Beatles on KZOK on 102.5 in Seattle, and there I was like, I got to know the DJ, and they're like, "Yep, we get Rocky Raccoon requests." He goes, "I could play that just over and over," and he'd play it almost every week, and I'd be like, "Okay, yep, we know." Okay, cool. Anyway,
All right,
uh,
all right. So let's ask this because we're talking about favorite and worst. What's your favorite Beatles song ever?
I think that is a difficult question
For sure,
to
it's a little loaded.
answer. But in on Abbey Road, when the theme from "You Never Give Me Your Money" comes back, uh, that that is probably one of the most dramatic. I mean, it's like one of those like here it comes, and
Yeah.
it is just it changes my life every time I hear it, and I like a symphony. I love listening to it all the way through. But if I'm in a rush, I'll just go right, and I'll just be like, "Here it comes," and
Yeah.
it's all reincorporated, and it's all together, and it is a heart slaying thing. But it's hard to say what you. I mean, "I'm a Loser" is one of my favorite songs. "Day in the Life" is just that
Well,
is
that's
a
what's
masterpiece of so much that they did. It is, and yeah,
and I think what's so cool, and I bet it's the same experience that I have, is that since I've been a Beatles fan, I really got hugely into Beatles around 13, 14. And at that time, it was like, oh, well, my favorite song is Sergeant Pepper. And then I got into my senior year of high school, and then I was like, dude, it's Happiness is a Warm Gun. And then I got a little bit older, and it just keeps changing. I
yeah,
think, and that's what's so great about this band is that you start one place just like them. And then by the end of it, you got sideburns, you're on heroin. It's great. All right,
yeah. That's
moving on.
exactly it.
Moving on, because that was a
Moving
loaded
on.
question. That was a loaded question. That was my
It's
bad.
hard.
All right,
Well, yeah. There's a lot of people don't talk about like shitty Beatles songs that no one listens to. So
dude,
maybe you
I
should
even,
do a whole
dude,
thing about that.
I even fuck with Octopus's Garden, bro. Just to give you
Wow.
an idea, all of it, bro.
Do
All
you
right,
think Revolution 9 should be on the White Album?
dude, I find something good about that. You ever listen to that and taking mushrooms, man?
No, look, if you have to, if you need an assist, then you could do that with almost anything. You'd be like,
For
yeah,
sure.
I let my smoke alarm chirp every 1 minute, but dude, when you get on Molly and listen to that for 3.5 hours,
Dude, I love.
oh man,
I'm still laughing about the smoke alarm, dude, no bullshit. So we got ready to do Wings Band on the Run with Reggie Watts a few months ago, and this is like the height of the pandemic. And what's been keeping me sane has been microdosing mushrooms. So I was like, dude, I want to
those
learn.
are
I want
properly prescribed by your doctor, and
100%, dude. They connect
oh,
the
all right.
synapses that get cut off through
No, but your
years of getting
doctor's like,
older.
take this mushroom each day, or you're like, I will self-administer and determine the dose.
Yeah, but I listened to every Paul McCartney Beatles song from their first record all the way up into the end. Took about 5.5 hours, and it's just hearing that evolution. You're like, oh my god, it just keeps getting like as they grow and it just took me back to all of these memories. And like I said, this is what we keep getting excited about is that this is why this band is so important. So all right, so moving on.
You're right.
Di-
No, you're
dig a
absolutely right.
yeah. So Dig a Pony recorded during their final live performance on the Apple Records rooftop. This cryptic Lennon love song to Yoko was later dismissed by him as a Dylan influenced piece of garbage. I know, this is great. It was grafted together from two separate song ideas he had, and the words
This
are
guy
just,
played this song on the roof. They worked on it and then went back to go, yeah, it's just garbage that I
well,
put on you.
John is quoted in 1972 saying, I was just having fun with the words. It was literally a nonsense song. You just take words and you stick them together and you see if they have any meaning. Some of them do, and some of them don't.
He's just angry. Look, it may not have meaning, but It's just like, I just, come on. It's like, we're like, no, just, it just somehow flopped onto the piece of vinyl.
I
I don't know how
know.
it happened. I
I
like,
know.
just like, I don't know. I just broke into the recording studio and just someone accidentally pushed record. I was just saying shit out loud and it just wound up on the album. That's when I was like, it's
I
like
didn't
that
even
whole like a
go ahead.
brilliant Rosie O'Donnell stand-up bit where Sharon Stone was told that she was tricked into uncrossing her legs and crossing them in what was that movie? The famous movie. What is it?
Rosie O'Donnell?
No, the Sharon Stone.
No. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct, where she was like, "I was tricked." That was just during, and then Rosie O'Donnell was like, "You have to light that shit." No, there's lighting guys. There was a light meter. There was and makeup artists. There that did not just happen. And just like so, anyway, when I hear that, I was like, oh, John's pissed at somebody who was trying, who he had like too many questions about the meaning of that song, and so he was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it's just like sometimes I'm just like, and then that's a song, and then that's what it is. I
Yeah,
guarantee.
because it hurts. It hurts us as fans that try to connect with it because we are always looking for deeper meaning in the lyrics. I don't know if you've ever seen John Lennon Imagine, the documentary. There's that scene where there's like a homeless guy that's been camping in John Lennon's like estate yard. And
Right.
that guy, and then the guy goes up to me, he's like, well, you wrote all these songs about me, which of course is batshit crazy. And John's like, nah, man, I'm just putting words together, dude. I have no idea who you are. It's either about Yoko or it's about me. And but like
Yeah, and then he was like, "Come on in for some breakfast." And I'm like, "Don't do that."
dude, the guy's gonna kill
My
you.
guess is the camera operator was like a 300-pound rugby player ready to kill the guy. But geez, Louise. I
All
mean,
right.
you hear that and you're just like, oh, that's so nice. He took him in and it was really cool to him. And it's like cut to George Harrison being, his home, him being assaulted in his own home, and his wife thankfully hit him with a candlestick so hard
Yeah.
that she busted his skull open. But yeah, these guys, I mean, obviously we know what happened with John, but he was very nice. But yeah, to say like, yeah, I was like, yeah, just, I just put words together, it's something. And he's on, in a mansion in
Yeah.
like a British, but like a mansion that's,
An estate. Yeah. Like
yeah, there's
Gosford
lords.
Park.
He was, yeah. Anyway,
All right. I got to play this because,
because
after finding.
I've slowed this process down
Oh,
a
no, no,
lot.
no. No, I love this. But you know
All
what
right.
I love more than even your thoughts?
I dig a bone.
The solo by George. Peter, play the solo. All right, kill it. That's what I love so much about this is just like I would just pass over that solo and now it's just like because this is the whole thing is that I used to be obsessed with John Lennon. He was my favorite Beatle, and now I'm a George fan. As you get older, you get spiritual, you buy some crystals, you burn some Nag Champa. You're all about you read the Bhagavad Gita.
I
It's
mean,
all George.
sure, we all did that.
Wait, who's your favorite Beatle?
Oh, how dare you?
Oh, I dare.
I'm gonna go with Pete Best.
Stuart
He's
Sutcliffe.
I like him a lot. George Martin, he's my favorite fifth Beatle.
He's the best.
I don't. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's constantly rotating, and there's like I love. There were like people like, oh, you like Paul, right? You're like a Paul fan. Oh, well, I'm deeper. I like John, and I'm like, oh my gosh, but yeah, no, it's one of those things where it's been a moving target for a long time. And George, he was so quiet compared to Paul and John that were so out there. And of course, I mean, Ringo, his name was Ringo Starr. So George was just like, yeah. And he just on his own was like, he would have had as big, I wouldn't say, I mean, he wouldn't, but if he could have had as big of a career as any solo artist from the 60s and 70s if he had wanted to. And
100%.
yeah, he was he was Paul's friend, right? Because they were and before when they met when they were 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
So no, I think George, George proved through the 70s and 80s and 90s that he could, over and over, like wrote just masterpieces. And so
to go with what you're saying, in my opinion, out of the best Beatles solo records, it's George. All Things Must Pass. I mean, we
Amazing.
did that maybe a year ago with Peter Asher, from the guy who used to be the head of Apple Studios. My
Wow.
producer up in the corner, Jeremiah, booked him, and he hated me. He
Oh.
hated me, and we've gotten more complaints about that episode than any other episode. Isn't that right, Jeremiah? Just give us the thumbs up if you. Yep. See,
It
hates it,
wasn't. They didn't complain about how poorly organized the bookshelf is behind you.
dude. This is fucking.
It
This
looks
is. I'm
like
gonna.
you were like we're playing with a Nerf ball right before we started.
We were. I've
Or
got.
you were trying to document a crime because I can see the Polaroid camera.
What are
So
we
you were
looking
trying to
at?
document a crime from 1981, and you were like, "Get it out quick! Here, you gotta get photos of the car crash, quick, quick, more."
Dude, we're lucky that this is even happening. Like, my mom's internet wouldn't work, and my sister's letting me let me do it. But look at this. You might not like this, but look at this. Look, the Chesapeake Bay. Look at that
Wow.
on
No,
the
no,
water.
you definitely don't look like a ne'er do well. Like, yeah, my mom's place, man. I hope, it's ridiculous. Her internet didn't work real well. I mean, it's crazy. I got a real podcast here, mom. Keep it down.
Jesus, Mom, why didn't you pay the Verizon
Come
bill?
on, get
Come
AT&T
on.
fiber. It's super fast.
I'm not doing
Unbelievable.
anything.
Anyway, let's microdose.
All right.
That's a
We
beautiful
actually,
shot. Chesapeake Bay, right? Beautiful.
also, your perfect song to microdose to would be the next one, Across the Universe.
A
So,
masterpiece.
thank you. A version
And
of
so
this.
they removed the bird sound because the bird sound in the first version that came out, that was Phil Spector, right?
Yes.
Right at the beginning, the birds flapping away, and then it
Yeah.
went in. So they were like, get rid of the birds.
Get rid of the birds. So a version of this was actually recorded a year earlier in February of 1968 and included on a 1969 charity album for the World Wildlife Fund. Peter, play 135.
Um,
Kill it. So even though this sounds all cosmic and shit, John was compelled to write it after he got irritated by the nagging of his first wife, Cynthia. Accordingly, the chorus lyrics, Jai Guru Deva Om, is a calming mantra that John picked up in Rishikesh, India, when the Beatles visited the Maharishi in 68.
and he
So
was like, I want to get so far away from my current wife, I would go across the universe to be away from
we've all felt
That's
that,
wow.
dude.
That takes on a totally different meaning.
Yeah, dude. That's what I'm telling you, dude. John was a dick, bro. John was a dick. Like, he would, dude. I'm friends with Sean Lennon. I'm on his album with Les Claypool.
Braggart.
Julie, dude. I don't get to name drop that often about Beatles that I know. So let me have this, okay?
You still don't know any
dude,
Beatles, but go
bro.
ahead.
You know Kurt Warner. I've got like brothers and cousins of famous people. Okay.
Can
So let
you
me
text Sean Lennon?
Yeah, dude. Right now.
All right,
Hold on.
let's do
Dude,
it.
do you want to hear the dopest shit? This is the coolest
I'll
thing about
text
me.
Kurt Warner and
All right, here you go.
see what he thinks of the
Sean,
Eagles
look,
Seahawks matchup tonight.
Sean, that's Sean K. Sean Lennon. There you go. Booyah. You see it up top?
You're showing his number, dummy.
We're gonna cut this out. This isn't live, bro. We're gonna have to edit
I'm
that.
sorry. I'm sorry to insult you. I called you a dummy. What is the Sean Lennon's cover of his father's song, "This Boy" with Rufus Wainwright and Moby is one of my favorite things of all time. All time. Have you heard that? It was live.
Haven't, no, I haven't heard it.
His voice, Sean Lennon's voice is so it soars out. I was just like, dear, and I never really liked that song.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my Lord. Hold on. Watch it. I'm going to play music for you. Sean Lennon, bro. Rufus Wainwright. This boy. All right, let's see if it'll work. All right, hold on, I'm going to get to it. Here we go. This Hold on.
Just to love you, but oh my, that boy won't be happy until he sees you cry. Ooh.
I mean,
Yeah, you got me.
come
Yeah,
on,
dude. That's
dear
incredible.
Lord.
That's
It is
incredible.
just, he did that lot. I mean, it was just, I mean, it is hard. I mean, Rufus Wainwright and Moby are insane musicians, and obviously Sean is too, but to freaking, oh my gosh, it was just, I listened to that all the time. There was a time when that was on every mix CD I had. I was just like, that's going on every one. And every time people play that, like, what song is that? I was like, it's Dad's song. It's a Beatles song. And it was just, yeah. Anyway,
That's
I'm
so
very
great.
jealous that you know Sean Lennon, and please say hello from the
I
host of
will.
Card Sharks on
I will.
ABC.
Yeah, dude. Now he's it's that's what's so cool about that whole, like, Burr said to me, he goes, when you follow your dreams, cool shit happens. And I'm such a huge Beatles fan to know that I've jammed with Sean, we've hung out, and I'm on his record with Les Claypool.
Yeah.
Just it's like it still blows my mind because I like as we've talked, I'm obsessed with the Beatles. And I think that's the whole thing even with this song is that across the universe, I remember when I was younger, I really liked this. I
That
still
segue brought us back, by the way. Thank you.
brought us right back.
That was
Actually,
well done. That
so
shows super good hosting skills.
thank you, brother. Also, you want to hear something really cool about this? On February 4th, 2008, Across the Universe became the first track to be beamed directly into space by NASA, who transmitted it towards the North Star Polaris, 431 light years from Earth. So
Wow.
that's pretty
That's
blessed.
amazing. And what's the point? Uh, like, of all the things they're going to fire this song into space and be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? No, that's pretty cool.
The
And
aliens will
have you
love She
heard,
Loves You, man.
yeah, have you heard Rufus Wainwright's version of Across the Universe? It's great. It's on Poses, 2001's Poses. And then there's another version by.
Pull it out.
One moment. Just so dumb that I can't remember this. You can cut out me looking for. So bad. What's his name? Give me it. Oh, Robin Hitchcock. There it is. Robin Hitchcock. Yeah. It's a great version. He's a British. I'll stop playing it. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Josh's mom or sister. Anyway,
it's my niece. Hold on, there
listen.
she is. There you go. Say hi to Joel McHale. This is my niece.
Oh, hi, niece. I love the sloth. Very cool.
He said he loved this. He loves this sloth.
I saw one last week at the LA Zoo.
All right,
I
stop
learned
bragging, bro.
a lot about them. They have they have a symbiotic relationship with the flies that live in their coats.
Do they really?
Yeah, because the flies keep, or which it's like a beetle that keeps a beetle keeps their coat clean, and then they lay their eggs in it, and then it's like they basically have a car washing system going all the time. Anyway, what am I saying? So Rufus Wainwright's version and Robin Hitchcock's version, I can't recommend enough. Thank you.
All right, we'll definitely put that on the playlist. Next song, I Me My. Lyrically, it refers to humankind's eternal problems with ego trips. This is my favorite part. Peter, play it. All right, kill it. So this is what's funny about this song. So George wrote this about 2 weeks into the Twickenham sessions, and due to a prominent scene in the movie of him showing it to the band while a disinterested John dances with Yoko, it needed to be included. So as John had already privately quit by 1970, George, Paul, and Ringo recorded this with George Martin. It's also sadly fitting that I Me Mine is a song about creative division and inflated egos, two elements that played a huge role in the breakup of the band. Um, I know it's not, if you've seen that clip in the anthology, I think you mentioned it earlier, where George was like, he's like, "I'll play what you want me to play. If you want me to play this, I'll do it." And that, it's like, that's what's so sad about this song, because I never realized it was that George was like accepted by so many other great musicians, Dylan, and the Stones, and everybody
Look at the
respected.
Traveling Wilburys. He was in a band with Dylan.
Exactly, and they respected him, but he wasn't respected by basically the two most important members of this band. And it's just, it's almost perfect that this song is about ego. Tell me your thoughts on this song.
No, I think this song shows George's insane dynamic songwriting skills along with the music, because that clip you played, it goes right into the crescendo of that chorus, and then it drops down the other side and does it again.
Yeah,
It shows you what a great songwriter he is, and that he can, the dynamicism of his music.
yeah.
And I didn't realize it was about that. There's so many Beatles songs. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. And then, then John just goes, "It's just a bunch of words put together." And then, we just like throw the guitar on the air and we say like Beatles. And,
Yeah.
but you're absolutely right. It's like being on the Chicago Bears with two Michael Jordans ahead of a Scottie Pippen, where you're like,
Yeah.
that guy could lead any team he wanted to, but he's on this team with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think he is. It's hard to say he's underappreciated, because the guy he is George Harrison, and but I'm that you can feel the dynamic, that exact dynamic you talk
For
about,
sure.
which is a tragedy, because those two guys should have been like, cannot believe we are the dream team. Literally,
Yeah.
this is
Oh,
like this dream come true. Nobody is. It's crazy how good that the four came together, like some sort of harmonic convergence of
but maybe
creativity.
no, for sure. But maybe because of the reaction that George had to deal with them, we wouldn't have gotten some of the great songs that he did have to like really force through, like Something, or then
Yeah,
even taking it to All Things Must Pass. I mean, that record, the Beatles one might have never broken up if they all didn't, if they all just would have gelled a little bit better.
yeah.
But it's just, I feel like in all of this, uh what's the word I'm looking for? Just disorder with them and their relationship with George. I think that's why the songs that we did get from George on the Beatles records are so great, is because he
Mm.
had to like push through like his best ones. I mean, in my opinion, While My Guitar Gently Weeps is probably arguably the best song off of the White Album. So,
I would agree,
yeah,
and one of the best rock songs ever written.
for sure.
I
All right.
remember that was one of those songs where I feel like you go through your "Wow, My Guitar Gently Weeps" phases, where you discover it's like, whereas you've heard it, or like you get, you hear about the beat, but then you go through these, especially in high school, where I'm like, I'm just going to listen to these three songs for the next month and a half and
Yeah.
let them completely burn into my memory cells, into my heart. And that
Yeah.
is one of them.
Have you ever
These are-
seen Have you ever seen them play that at the Rock and Roll? I think it's the induction where
No.
Prince plays the solo, and it's like Jeff Lynne and
Oh,
Prince
yeah.
and Donnie Harrison. It's what's one not only just made me love the song even more, but it made me appreciate how dope Prince is, because
Yeah.
he kills it, like kills. I was about to cuss, but I think my other niece is in the room. I was about to be like, he effing crushes. All right.
You
Next
wouldn't
song.
believe it. He just friggin' nailed it.
I know.
Right there. Sorry, Mom.
Dude, you're 100% right. All right. Dig it.
No,
So did you,
but I'll say
right.
that when I saw Prince, he sang the Foo Fighters a song, "The Best of You," and
Ooh.
it was just, and he was playing one of his songs, and you realize, oh, it's the same chords, and he was just like, I got a confession to make, and I was like, oh my lord, he's singing a Foo Fighters song, and
It's the best.
it was I was just like, dear God. I mean,
Yeah.
could you imagine? Yeah. Anyway, all right, I'll stop.
All right.
Great.
So Dig It is just a snippet of a rambling 15-minute jam coming out of a cover of Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone with Paul on piano, John on a six-string bass, George on guitar, Ringo on drums, Billy Preston on organ, who really does tie this whole record together, and George Martin on maracas. Lennon rattles off acronyms and famous names before it trails into an edited ad-lib from
How long
another
is the
take.
song?
The song's like under a minute.
Yeah,
I
it's like
here's what
50 seconds or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. So I've got here, play this part, Peter, because this is the part that I pulled for it. All right, kill it. All right, so that was "Can You Dig It" by Georgie Woods, and now we'd like to play "Hark the Angels Came." That's just Paul. That's just John, just being a cadoodle, man. He's just having fun. He's on heroin. That's what you do on. Yeah, we've all done. We've
We've
all put
all
on.
done heroin and had fun. And it's
We've
that
all.
other part of heroin where you're just scratching all the time and wondering why you're just having bowel movements in your bed. That's the not so fun part.
All right,
I
but
mean,
then that.
it is weird and wonderful. Because I'm sure it must have driven George Martin insane when you're like, no, there's going to be a song on the album. And I was like, this thing is 53 minutes long, and people are like, it's just screaming and yelling. Yeah, it's on the album. Okay,
But th-
okay.
then Joel, that
Because the
brings us.
transition, I love it. I call it the transition song.
Oh, and I
Wonderful.
don't know if we appreciate "Let It Be" on the record as a whole if it isn't for that mumbo
Yeah.
jumbo right before it. So "Let It Be." Paul's mother Mary died of brain cancer in 1956 when he was 14. This title from the song came to him when he saw his mother in a dream, reassuringly saying to him during the stressful era of recording the White Album. The George Martin produced single version of this was released before the album and the movie. Everything about this song is perfect, and I couldn't decide what my favorite part was. The solo in it just rips, but my favorite is Paul's little falsetto, that little like in it. So Peter, play that. Ooh, can you do that? Kill it. Can you do? Can you hit me? Come on, Joel. Yeah.
Almost. Oof.
All right.
I mean, here's one of those songs where like, what can you say? I mean, you
Yeah.
can't. It's perfect, and I don't know. What is there any criticism? Should there? There's
No.
nothing you can say.
There's
I
there's
was like, it
there's
should be 2 seconds longer. I was like, so. It's just one of the best things that's ever been written for music ever.
yeah.
It just is.
Yeah.
I know that I big sound melodramatic, but top that assholes.
It's so funny, Joel, because like when I was younger, I liked this song, but I kind of thought it was cheesy. And then I listened to it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago as I was prepping to do this, and I just started weeping. It was so beautiful. And it just, like we said about the Beatles, it just hits differently the older we get and the more that we've gone through struggles and the more we've overcome them. Something like this is like now, especially during the pandemic where it's like, we've
Yes,
lost work, we've lost this, and then you listen to this and it just feels okay. And
it
that's
feels
what's so
okay.
beautiful about it.
It's yeah, and I think you hear like, oh, I came to my when you hear something like, oh, this song is about his mom and remembering his mom, and I think people could have gone like, oh, well, that could become melodramatic or something, and it's not. Just like John Lennon's Julia is not at all. It's so wonderfully honest, and they just happen to be insanely good songwriters who make a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. Now, do you like the Shaggy version?
Of this,
Mm-hmm.
Shaggy the reggaeton. I don't know if it's reggaeton. Reggae good?
Well, I would say he's. This is not really his. I mean, it's a mashup. I don't know what the legality of this is.
We can play it.
Honey came in and she got me red-handed, creepy with the girl next door. Picture this, we were both butt naked, banging on the bathroom
Hold on.
floor. How could I forget that I had given her an extra key all this time? time she was standing there.
Listen to how good this sounds. Ready?
Oh, you forget the woman access to your villa. Just on your weakness, all the up in your villa.
How great.
You better watch your back before she turn into a
Hold on.
Yeah, I'm in.
To be a true player, you have to know how to play. If she say
comes
you're
Paul.
not convinced, her say you're big. Never admit to a word that she say. And if she claim her, you tell her, baby, no way. Let it be, let it be.
Ooh, bringing it back, dude.
Pretty good.
It's not
I
bad.
am- That's one of those tracks on my iTunes that I'm like, share. We will not let you share that. They will not. I don't know how to get it off my iTunes into like a MP3. I can't. I mean, I'm sure there's 1,000 YouTube videos on how to rip something like that. But
Yeah.
I listen to. So they just turned up "Let It Be" a little. They made it a little bit faster,
Yeah.
and that song just perfectly.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic. Cheeseball. Well, here's a funny thing about this song is that Lennon hated it. He hated the song. He hated the Christian overtones. So that is why he made sure that it was followed by a song about a shady prostitute who got arrested for robbing a homeward bound sailor. Peter, play the opening to Maggie May.
And you never ever walk down light streets anymore.
All right, kill it. Dude, John's a
That
dick.
dirty, no good loving Maggie May.
Hey. Dude, John's a dick, bro. That's what I'm saying. He used to be my
Yeah,
favorite Beatle, but I just not
but-
anymore.
Don't you think it was just they were just at each other the whole time, and
Oh, for
so
sure.
he was just like, "I'm just going to do something opposite." I mean, the Abbey Road's the greatest example of that, where they're like, "Oh yeah, well this is my side, that's your side. Do whatever you want. I'm doing this."
For sure, dude. However, this is what's kind of cool about Maggie May. Like Dig It, it lists all four Beatles as writers, but it's a traditional Liverpool folk song that they played in their pre-Beatles skiffle group, the Quarrymen.
Yeah,
This is a little off. Well, should I ask this? Why not? Since this is about.
I like how you're saying it like we're like on a talk show where we have 8 minutes to get it all in. You're like, should we talk about this? We only have no limit. All right, go ahead.
Usually I always ask questions like pertaining from the song meanings about and ask you the question about your life. So I want to ask you this. When have you felt like you were prostituting yourself?
I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, dude. How much? $50? All right.
Let's see. Let's see. I'm meaning when I could not get a job here in Hollywood, so I just sold my body. No, I mean, so I literally prostituted myself. No, so I couldn't get an agent, and I got a commercial agent, and I knew some of the actor friends I had that kind of looked down on like, oh, you're just going out for that Colgate ad, and I was like, oh, I will. I didn't feel like I basically was like, I'll sell anything you want. Go ahead. Let's do it. Herpes medicine. I don't have it, but let's do it. And so yeah, I became Joey from Friends in that great episode. But I'm trying to think of the times. You know, there's a couple of television things that I've done. There was a couple of pilots. This is years ago because people can if they're trying to get. It was like things that never saw the light of day. But I'm like, I literally was like, I think I'm going to do this. My agents are recommending that I don't, and I was like, but I don't think this is going to go anywhere. So I'm just going to take the risk. And I think I have a lot of actor friends that are like, how dare you? And I'm like, that thing bought me a basketball hoop that I've made a cement hole for, and now I have a basketball hoop. It bought other things. But so I think there wasn't a time when I'm trying to think of a time when I was just like, and I could not look at myself in the mirror. Thanks, Joshua. So there wasn't, I haven't, and that's not to say, I mean, it's probably just because I've whored out myself so many times that I don't even, I'm like, that seems fine.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. No. No. There's, it's a weird business but I'm now maybe I hoard myself out otherwise. It's a weird business because there's such an array of jobs that if you are so privileged enough to get some of them,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe. I remember Basil Rathbone. Remember Basil Rathbone? He was the
Yeah.
villain in Robin Hood in Errol Flynn's Robin Hood. Towards the end of his life, he did some really shitty like Halloween movie or something. And it was like a kind of a pseudo horror film in the late 60s, early 70s. And someone asked, like, it was like a retrospective of his career. Like, they were like, why did you do that? He was like, a yacht.
Yeah, dude. It's like
He
I
didn't
thought
even say
about
like, he was like, I had my eye on a yacht, and I was just like, make that money. It's also the thing, like, when I see people like on NFL teams, they're like, oh, well, he moved, he went, he went to the Packers because he was got offered more money. And I was like, good.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Because one wrong move in the NFL and your leg is broken in half. So
Yeah.
you should make the money now.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how especially with with a sport like that,
Yeah, for
where
sure.
it's like, it could be, I was like, go for it. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, anyway, there you go. That was a long explanation.
No, but I get it because I think there's a certain point, like especially at the beginning, it's just like we just want to work. We just want to make an income that's not waiting tables. Like if it has to do with our with what we love doing, like stand up or acting, whatever, it's like we'll take it, dude. I just did a film recently. And I was just like, no, I want to act. It's during the pandemic. And then when I sat down to do the scene, I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I was like, but how much does it pay? Oh, it pays. Okay. That's not terrible. I'll take that. And now I can pay my rent for 3 months. So
Yeah.
call us
Yeah.
prostitutes, universe.
Fine. No, I always see it as I'll tell you the person who told me this. They were like, you look at it like surfing, where when you paddle out, you start seeing waves and you just have to start going like, I think this is a good wave. This looks pretty good. And then you see if that wave takes you all the way in or it smashes you and you just swim back out and you keep doing it. And hopefully you don't hit the rocks or get eaten.
I love that.
But that's how I was like, yeah, not everything is life and death. So, and that's why, so there you go.
All right. I've got a feeling. All right. So this is
one of my favorite songs on the album.
This is one of your favorites? All right. So one bright spot of this album is this last serendipitous collaboration between Paul and John. Paul had this unfinished song, and John happened to have another older unfinished song called Everybody Had a Hard Year and suggested merging them. Paul's part was upbeat and positive as he went into this new project, while John's was dark and reflected his previous year of divorce, estrangement from his son, Julian, Yoko's miscarriage, his drug bust, and his continuing heroin addiction. Best part is Paul's scream. Peter, play it. All right, kill it. So why is this your favorite song?
What because of those things you said. Because it's exactly everything you said. It's both of them, and it's like you just go like, can you guys just put it away your differences for a second and just come together on a really wonderful song where you're working together and it's everything you said. It's a John song and it's a Paul song. And it's ironic that Paul the whole time was like, I've got a feeling that this band is going to break up.
Yeah.
And then it did. So, and there really is, it is like a sweet and sour. It is savory and sugary at the same time. And it's just, I think it's a masterful song. And this is another one of those songs when I hear, I'm just like, I'm never turning it off. And literally, like, because I went back and went through this album, and I didn't listen to Let It Be, and I didn't listen to this, and I didn't listen to Get Back, because I was just like, oh, you don't need to. Yeah. You've already heard them 6,000 times, and it'll be fun to get on a podcast and hear it fresh. But some of the other ones, I'm like, yeah, you didn't listen to Maggie May as much as you maybe thought you did, and so anyway, yeah. So that's why I love the song, and there's something about. For me, which I wasn't alive or barely alive, which is like, there's something about the end of the 60s and the beginning of the 70s. And this song kind of like, it's also signaling the end of the band, but this song kind of like, oh, this era is over. A new one is beginning. And, and it's hopeful and it's cynical and it's really great.
No, I completely agree with you. All right, one after 909. So this rooftop performance is the oldest Beatles song recorded for any of their official albums, as it was written by John with a little help from Paul in 1957, the same year that they met. John, whose birthday was October 9th, was always drawn to the number 9, so he used it in this tale of just missing his baby's train. What I think was great about Spector's production is leaving in these little moments of dialogue. Peter, play 237. Oh, wait. I fucked up. That's actually, yeah, that's right. That meant that's supposed to be for you, Blue. That's, hold on. Oh, wait, no, that right there.
That's it. But you play.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I see. I
Yeah.
see. You wanted that. I was just
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you played the last 5 seconds of the song.
Well, no, I love, but that's the whole thing is that all those little like those spoken things that are played throughout this album, that was all Phil Spector trying to create the illusion of like, oh, well, this is that concert movie like thing. I got mistaken because I thought we were talking about the one that's coming up right after The Long and Winding Road, which
Well,
is For
and we
You
should
Blue.
point out, obviously, Billy Preston was on the keyboards on that song.
Kills it.
And he kills it. And I don't think he's like 16 years old or something, or 18.
Peter, can you find out
He
how
was
old Billy
so
was?
young, and he had played with Chuck Berry, I think. I mean, the guy was fucking master. But that said, about now, because I went back and listened to the other disc on Let It Be Naked, and they're just giving John shit about the lyrics.
Yeah.
They were like, so went to the station, right? And you can hear them just. He was like, and they got the wrong location, and he was like, yeah, and he was like, you just chose that because it rhymed, didn't you? And it's so funny. I mean, like, oh yeah, so how'd you figure that one out there, John? And it's so funny to me. And you could see that he was like, yeah, that's exactly what I did. It rhymed. And it's so funny.
That's what's so great about those little like interludes is because it does give you that little bit of character that each Beatle kind of has. Well, mostly it's all John, but I mean it just adds so much like depth that he was the funny one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can hear it, and it's like it almost like it lives up to the stereotype that everybody gave him. But having John sing Danny Boy perfectly sets up the transition to the next song, which is The Long and Winding Road, which we've already mentioned. Paul was inspired by the road up to his farm in the calm country of Scotland, of course, and imagined it sung by someone like Ray Charles. So this third, final, and last number one single was already pretty mawkish, but sparse before Phil Spector drizzled schmaltzy strings and choirs all over it. Let's take a listen to the schmaltziness of the strings. Peter, play 156. So kill it. I mean, kill it. Personally, I love the strings. I mean, this is a tearjerker for me. This reminds me of my senior year in high school after the Beatles anthology came out, when I really did like such a deep dive into the Beatles and realized just how great they were. This song, it keeps coming back. Next to Two of Us, this is probably my favorite song on the record.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I love this song. And
I think Phil Spector ruined a lot of it for me because I just thought I found it very schmaltzy. I was just like,
wow.
Okay. And then it was like, and then he has to actually say in it that he cries. And I'm like, okay. But that was the same like with the REM song Everybody Hurts, where I'm like, well, this is right on the nose. And but the version without all that is a better version for me.
I have to listen to that. I have to listen to that because I don't think I've ever listened to Let It Be Naked because I don't know. Maybe I put it on. Maybe I did, but I don't really.
It's sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. I mean, some of it's left intact, but yeah, I don't know. There's just the song is so on the nose about what it's doing. It's kind of like, I don't know. Now I sound like this is how paranoid I am. They're like, oh, Paul McCartney's going to hear me bragging on his song. I mean, he's a gigantic, like, hear me. They're like, I can't wait to hear.
I heard you were talking
That was like
shit
that
about me,
game
Mr.
I mean,
John
those are the
McHale.
paranoid, like this game show host was like not 100% on every one of your songs. No, it's kind of like, like when, I don't know, did you read the liner notes off of The Police? The huge, it now came out 20 years ago, but where they did liner notes, redid all liner notes on all their songs. And
No, I didn't see that.
like Sting is constantly like, I wish Tea in the Sahara was slower. And then Stuart Copeland is always just like, yeah, he said that about every fucking song. And I was just like, yeah, this is one of those times maybe where I
can't believe that they did that. It's insane because The Police were perfect. Like, that's so crazy that you would like critique them on the new release of the record. Well, it's funny that we talked about this because Paul hated this version so much that it was
hold on. Here's Paul calling right now. Excuse me. He hate. Then good. Then I'm with Paul on that.
You're with Paul.
The strings gets like, it just gets so like, it sounds like a movie soundtrack for the swelling crescendo of the lovers coming together and then getting, blown up or something.
It's perfect cheese though. But this is what Paul used as one of the 6 reasons he used in court when he sued to dissolve the Beatles. Now, Phil Spector, I know that's dope. Phil Spector maintains that the dense orchestrations had to be there to cover up, and check this out, Lennon's terrible bass playing. Ringo was the only Beatle at that last session when he played along with the session musicians in choir to complete Spector's signature wall of sound.
Wow.
Yeah, and what's funny, even funnier, is this song might not have been a Beatles song. Paul originally offered this to Tom Jones in 1968 with the condition that it be his next single, but it was too hasty and Tom had to pass. Can you imagine?
Tom, you probably should have taken that.
Yeah, right.
When a Beatle is offering you a song, just go ahead. Just take the risk.
Dude, he's like,
they wouldn't have thrown underwear at me the way they did. It's not unusual.
It's a very, you're right. It's a.
I mean, so he said John's bass playing was terrible. That's what Phil Spector. Yeah, okay. That's just a guy that's just a Phil Spector being a dick and getting a lawyer, and the lawyers were like, yeah, say his bass playing was bad. One of the greatest musicians of all time. Yes, great.
But on heroin, you ever, dude, we've all, like we talked about, remember the last time you did heroin, you lay around, you scratch yourself, you got butter fingers.
Yeah.
It's very tough to maintain a bass line, dude.
I don't know. He was able to do all that other shit on the album really well.
It's true. All right.
And then all of a sudden, just one day, I was like, "Come play the bass, man."
he's like, hold on for a second. He's like, I haven't pooped in 4 days.
That doesn't. I like how Phil Spector's like, I had to come fix their songs.
He's such a dick. All right, For You Blue. George Harrison wrote this 12-bar country blues song for his wife, Pattie Boyd, in 1968. This is my favorite part. I kind of fucked it up on the last one, but this is the part I was talking about. Peter, play 58 seconds. Bop, cat, bop. The 12-bar blues. All right, kill it. So I love
Sweden. Yeah.
Bop, cat, bop. So after this is
when he said Johnny, was he referring to John Lennon's bass playing?
I don't know. Maybe. But what I did find is this. So after recently hanging out with Bob Dylan and the band and being treated with equal respect, George optimistically approached these sessions anticipating an ensemble approach. It didn't really work out that way, and this was his only originally recorded. This is the only original recorded for this album until I Me Mine, featuring Lennon on lap steel guitar and McCartney on piano. This went to number 1 as the B-side of The Long and Winding Road. Yeah, so my
this
writer
was the number 1.
Well,
Did you say?
long and
Yeah,
yeah, so long
that's
and
Long and
winding,
Winding Road.
yeah, long and winding road. But this was the B side, so that I mean, I guess they kind of like I don't know how those singles used to work back in the '60s, but I mean, this is what's so funny about this song is that this is almost like I don't want to call it a throwaway in the Beatles catalog, but it's just it's not when you think of Let It Be, this is not the song that pops up in your head, but
Mm-mm.
yet it's so great, and
Well,
it's like
yeah,
and it's just like George is like fighting to get any music
yeah.
on these
But you don't
later
think about
records.
Maggie May either when you think about Let It Be.
No, but there's I mean, I don't, but I do because it's such a that beginning of Maggie May is so iconic with that "Whoa, dirty Maggie May" that it just brings up so much. This is one that you just don't really think about as much. So what are your thoughts on this?
No, I like. I mean, I like. It's a much easier hang than the Long and Winding Road for me. Get going, mom. Mom, not now,
No,
not
it's
now,
my
not
nieces. I'm
now.
trying to cuss. I need my nieces to leave.
Just take the Polaroid camera and enjoy. Just get out. Just
Just
whatever
get
you
it.
want to do.
All right, just take your Dr. Seuss
Grab these,
book.
grab these textbooks and this paperweight. Okay, just go. I'm doing it. Oh, it's frustrating.
Mom,
Stop.
Joel McHale's talking about For
This
You
is
Blue.
important. Oh.
Ugh.
No, I would agree that it's not the song that pops into your head, but it's a and it's you know like Abbey Road, you put them all together, and you're like, yeah, that's Let It Be. And so I think some of the the transition songs or whatever the little ones, this is perfectly in line and probably the most like the most thought out and well played. And
Yeah.
how long this song is pretty short. It's
Peter, do you have that in front of you? How long this song is? I think it's like about 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
yeah,
Care to
it's
take a guess? Hold on, let me
pretty
pull it
short.
up.
I mean, when you look at the Long and Winding Road and Let It Be and the length of those. Anyway, so I'm kind of like, yeah, it's just a fun, easy hang, and I didn't know that it was dedicated to his wife, and I think the guitar work is like those little plinks. Not many people were doing that, and then here we are. I know you're
I
looking for
was
the length.
2 minutes and 30 seconds
Oh,
on
all right,
the Dizzle.
a little longer than
Good
I
for
thought.
me.
All right.
Great song, but then that leads us into the final track on the record, which on Let It Be Naked is the first track, Get Back. So a different mix of this McCartney song was released as a single in April of 1969 and credited to the Beatles with Billy Preston, the only artist to ever share billing with the band on a recording. It was built around a jam at Twickenham with the line, "Get back to the place you should be," from the song Sour Milk Sea that was written and produced by George Harrison for Apple artist Jackie Lomax. It went through several lyrical rewrites, including being a protest song that parodied bigoted anti-immigrant sentiments. So this blew my mind when I found this. This version has a false ending from the rooftop concert and edited studio chatter to make it sound live. So all that talking at the end was on a totally different recording when he goes, the whole famous, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves, and I hope we pass the audition. So there's the intro with him saying, "Sweet Loretta fart. She thought she was a cleaner, but she was a frying pan." So that was after the song and an edited version from the rooftop concert. So yeah, so they threw that all together, which is why I think I love it so much. Because when you read the lyrics now, and then you find out that this used to be a protest song, it's about these anti-immigrants and like trying to like fight against all of that. It just adds such a deeper level because I just took this song as like, oh, it's one of those mishmash Beatles songs. Just get back. Yeah, get back. But there's a deeper meaning to this. Thoughts on this?
I didn't know it was a protest song. Shows you how much I know. I kind of go like, because Billy Preston, as you said, got full credit, and his keyboard work here is unbelievably good. It is just like, who is this genius? And he was 23 when they recorded it, Let It Be, by the way.
Oh, wow.
According to our friend here. I was going to say Jeremiah Tittle, next chapter. But No, I just look at it as almost like, oh, well, this is when the Beatles go, hey guys, let's just come up with an insanely catchy song that's super cool, and we can do this in our sleep. Like when they want to do something like Revolution or something, they were like, when they come together and be like, oh, we're just going to write a song that people will never get out of their heads because we're
Yeah.
that good, and here it is, and it's going to be called Get Back, and it's a masterpiece.
Yeah. You are right though. The star of this song is Billy Preston. Peter, play a little bit of his solo.
23.
All right, kill it. So, being that we just gone through the record, we found out all this different information about it. Does that change any of your perspective on how this Beatle album ranks in your ranking of all the great albums that they released?
No, I think it's not good to say that it was thrown together after they broke up, because they all I think it was like this moment in time where they did the work on the songs they did at this crazy time in their careers, and you can hear it on the Let It Be Naked, the extra disc, where they're screwing around with each other. And I always like learning all this stuff because it makes me appreciate the album that much more. And
Yeah.
I learned so much more today. And so it just makes me want to go back and listen to the whole thing again. And you forget. I think some people don't, but you forget, like, oh, this is exactly what was going on with them at this time. And
Yeah.
it makes me, so there's a special place in my heart for this album because I see it like the moon landing, where you go, oh, you were born in 71. The moon landing happened 2 years before you were born. They had already gone to the moon. So
Yeah.
that's how I kind of feel like about the Beatles, is that
No, for
they had
sure.
already conquered the solar system by the time I was born. So that's why I play Beatles music for my kids, because I was like, you should know this. You should get
Yeah.
to learn this song. And I'm hoping that they'll just kind of organically go over to it. But so I really I did a little boning up on the album, but I didn't know all that stuff you said.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few more things. So here, let's
Here
do
we go.
let's do a couple facts, and then we'll get you out of here. All right.
Oh, no, I'm
All right. Everyone knows Paul hated Phil Spector's overproduction and augmentation of his songs. Years later, Spector clapped back by saying Paul had no problem picking up the Academy Award for the Let It Be movie soundtrack, nor did he have any problem in using my arrangement of the string and horn and choir parts when he performed it during 25 years of touring on his own. If Paul wants to get into a pissing contest about it, he's got me mixed up with someone who gives a shit. Spoken like a true batshit crazy person.
I like his, if he wants to get into a pissing match, then he should talk to somebody who gives a shit, because clearly Phil Spector gave a huge shit and was pissed. And then he shot someone in his foyer. So
was it the foyer?
That's why he's in federal prison.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. I like his hair, though. His hair is pretty dope. What's the longest you've ever held a grudge?
It started about an hour and a half ago.
Okay. All right,
against your mom.
Ooh, I'm pretty pissed at
What kind of an internet connection is that?
I mean, it's terrible.
Oh, Grant, I go back to, I can go back to getting into fights in second grade, or some big kid being a dick to me, and I can think back to those times and start getting oh, I'm right there. My heart's beating. My adrenaline's going. I'm ready to fight again. And so, when people go I don't hold grudges. I don't, it's oh yeah, probably you do. It's, as long as you work through them, but I don't have any, I have nothing like that. I don't have any long-standing, I don't think, maybe I do. But I don't have, just to hear Phil Spector's statement like that, where I'm just he was willing to, but don't confuse me with somebody who gives a shit. Whatever, dude. You sound like you're the last person I want to go to dinner with. I can say all this because he's in prison.
He's in prison, yeah.
But I don't know. Do you have any grudges?
I was thinking about that as you said it. Like, I get into a lot of like shower arguments where it's like I'll be, in the shower by myself or in the car, and just
Yeah.
think of that moment from fourth grade where it's like I didn't stand up for myself, or even recently, if like a
Mhm.
booker or whatever it is, and I like have that argument again. So but as I've gotten over the last like 3 or 4 years, I've been able to like process stuff a lot easier. So I'm a lot easier on myself, and I'm also able to see what I did wrong. Do you know what I mean? So
Oh, yeah.
even though Paul's right that Phil Spector did put a bunch of schmaltzy shit on this album, he changed it, whereas George Martin would have done something completely different. I think Paul just needs to recognize that, dude, it's like, if you really fucking hated it that much, then you
Yeah.
shouldn't have been covering it the way they've been recorded.
Well, and you're the guy on the album, so you had the power before it was released to do something about it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so I get that maybe it was like, well, I didn't know it at the time or whatever, but still, it's kind of like, I don't know. He was like, Phil Spector was literally the most famous record producer on the planet at that point, and had
Yeah.
a zillion hits. And his Christmas album is one of my favorite of all time. And I know that sounds weird, but I'm not kidding. But yeah, you could have done something about it. And if Phil
Yeah.
had just gone like, he seemed to like it at the time, and the songs did okay, and I'm sorry he disagrees. And like
Yeah.
if you just said something like that, it would have made Paul look, less gracious, and it would have made Phil look great. But instead, Phil looks like an asshole.
Yeah, and that is why Paul's fight to release a stripped down version without Phil Spector's contributions happened in 2003, which is what we talked about with Let It Be Naked, which sold okay despite most critics considering it non-essential to the Beatles' body of work.
There you
I
go.
actually agree with that, because because we've said this throughout the whole podcast, is that every album represents a time in the Beatles, and now knowing the history of the Beatles and knowing that they were on the verge of breaking up, every little mistake that Paul hates is something that I love even more, because we can feel what it was like probably in that room. So in my opinion, Let It Be Naked, yeah, it's cool. Beatles made more money. Didn't need to be made. I think this album is perfect the way that it is. So I wanted to ask you this.
Hmm.
If you could deem one of your past projects non-essential, which would it be? Is that too much?
Yeah, I don't know, everything. I'm the luckiest person on the planet because I get to and have, thankfully, for a while. Yeah, like when I started acting, I was just like, I just want to do this until somebody pulls me away and makes me get a real job. I'm going to do this until that happens. And I've gone into different versions of real jobs, but for the most part, I get to screw around and do things like this. And so, is any of it essential? I mean, I guess I brought money in for my family, and that is essential. But it's more like I can't believe my good fortune that I've gotten to do all the fun stuff I've gotten to do and be paid for it and
Yeah.
call it a career. So I'm kind of like, I got to, so I'm playing with house money right now. So that's when I'm like, I cannot believe when I hear actors complaining, it drives me out of my mind.
Okay, so what was the moment? What was the moment that you really, really had to pinch yourself? Like when you were like, "Holy shit! Like not only is this working, but I'm hanging out with Steve Largent from the Seattle Seahawks." Like, did you have
Yeah, that
any
was
of
pretty
those?
good.
Like, did you have any of those? Like we were talking about me and Sean Lennon. That was one of my holy shit. I can't believe I'm doing this. What is your holy shit? I can't believe I'm doing this moment.
That has happened numerous times in my career where I'm like, what? How did I get here? Like being on Sesame Street.
What?
Um,
You were on
yeah,
Sesame?
they asked me to come on Sesame Street, and I did a thing about prickly things, and I was like, I can't believe I get to be on Sesame Street. Like be like on the guests that started coming through the soup. I mean, at one point, I was when I did a sketch with Eric Idle from Monty Python. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
and my friend who I already talked about, Dominic DeLeo from fifth grade, he was in the sketch with me, and all we did was listen to Monty Python and watch them endlessly. And I looked past Eric Idle, look at Dominic, and we're like, How did this happen?
Yeah.
And there's I got to be in a movie with Matt Damon. That was my first like big role, and I was like, what am I doing here? How did this happen? And so it was those little. It's all. I mean, there's obviously I try to work my ass, but there's this moments where I'm just like, oh, this worked. This is working. Thank you,
Yeah.
God. Thank you, Jesus. So I kind of there's. I swear to you, when I get a call, they're like, "Oh, they want you to be in this." I'm like, "Yeah." When I got a call to be on the X-Files, and I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Is this something you want to do?" And I was like, "Fuck you for even asking. I'm driving to Vancouver now." And so I get to say that, and
Yeah. You do.
so
But Joel, I love your stand up. You were one of my favorite hosts of the Soup, if not the utmost best.
well, I will,
And
yeah.
and that was where I saw it, and I loved it, man. So you deserve everything, brother. You're great, dude.
I
So
really do. Thank you, and
you're
it's the humility that I think people appreciate.
it's such a humble guy. All right.
Well, hell, like that weekend that Kurt Warner was there,
Yeah.
like just like Kurt Warner just walking back as a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and Drew Bledsoe had been there the night before, or was there the next night. So I was just like, what is happening? How
Dude.
did this all happen? And it just if I am struck dead today, I will regret everything. No,
But not until Walter Payton comes to your next show, because you got to just keep
that would be
getting
something.
it's Walter Payton. Oh, this is Joe Montana.
That would be, yeah.
Joe,
Speaking of more NFL, like Russell Wilson was in a sketch that we did for the show I did for Netflix, and I was just like, Russell, what is happening? How did
so
this
dope.
happen? So it's really fun.
You worked on that. Is your boy is KP Anderson, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I
he
love
was the
KP.
executive producer.
Yeah, he's a good buddy.
Very funny man. Very funny.
Very cool.
His daughter's just about to go to college, so it just shows you time is passing.
Yeah. Also, he's a Holocaust denier. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah,
I did not know that.
Huge Holocaust denier.
Yeah.
Don't get into a conversation with him about. I'm kidding, everybody.
Well, if he thought the Earth was flat, then now that would be crazy.
Yeah. All right. So another fact: "The Long and Winding Road" is Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys' all-time favorite Beatles song. He said, "When they broke up, I was heartbroken. I think they should have kept going." I also find it extremely funny, Joel, to know that if you look at the list that we're going off of, it goes Sgt. Pepper and then Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, which there would be no Sgt. Pepper if it wasn't for Pet Sounds. Just a little thought.
Is that what you think?
I don't know. I find it because Sgt. Pepper is one of my favorite albums ever made. Everything about that record is perfect.
And they said that they were inspired by Pet Sounds?
Pet Sounds came out, and then they heard it, and then they went, we have to go further, because right before that was Revolver. So you could see them starting to go there with Tomorrow Never Knows and some of the editing that they were choosing to do. But it's like Pet Sounds comes out. That was like this, I guess, for the Beach Boys, like a psychedelic version of their music. And then the Beatles were like, we have to take it even further, which they did, because it's phenomenal.
All right. Here's what I'm going to say.
Hit me.
I have, and I really need to, and I'm an old man now, but I didn't get into the Beach Boys that much.
Me neither. No, me neither, dude.
I look, and Brian Wilson, I know you are a titan of musicality, and I apologize, as if he's going to be listening to this. Sorry, it's in your mom's basement. So I'm kidding. It's your mom's.
I'm in my sister's foyer, if that's what you call it. The kitchen's over there. The bay's over there.
It's
but
beautiful.
Then the bookshelf.
What town are you in?
Salisbury, Maryland. Do you even know where that? You ever been to Ocean City?
Yes,
Maryland?
I have. Yeah.
I'm like 20 minutes away from there.
Okay. Yeah, there's really good crab cakes.
Yeah.
But what am I saying?
You want to talk crab?
So I just didn't get into the Beach Boys the same way that I got into other bands, and I growing up in Seattle during all that grunge stuff, there are so many bands that credit the Beach Boys with a lot of their sound, or excuse me, a lot of inspiration for and so I'm like, oh, I need to really get into it, but I just didn't. I never got into that surfer sound. I don't know why. It just didn't hit me in the same spot. And again, Beach Boys, I'm sorry, I'm not, that's great music, but I just never. I will also say, and like like the Beatles are a band, or like Peter Gabriel, or like Led Zeppelin. Or Bruce Springsteen or someone like that. I got into them, but I never got into Dylan the way that most of my friends got into Dylan.
Me too.
And so, and everything I read about him, he seems like the fucking coolest. And I have bought his albums, I own them, and all that stuff. But I just didn't. I still listen to it, but I didn't. It didn't have the same religious. Sort of. I would say Peter Gabriel and David Bowie filled up that hole in my heart, and so that yeah. So there you go.
Yeah,
That if we're talking about
no.
talking about our 60s and 70s British and American bands, that
I'm the
you go.
same way, Joe. I'm the same way. I never really got into Dylan, the Beach
I'm
Boys.
gonna be killed for this. Beach Boys.
There's a lot of people that are like us that just always. Dude, I remember I went to go see the Raconteurs at George Mason University. They were opening for Bob Dylan, and I remember there was this huge traffic jam, so we jumped out of the cab that we took to get there, and we walked with this group of Bob Dylan fans. And there was a guy there that was like, "I've seen Bob Dylan 50 times," and he might have been 25 years old. And I was like, it's like that? Like Dylan's got that Grateful Dead type following? And he's like, yeah, man. And he's like, I'm meeting with a group of other people that have seen him even more than that. It's just for people like us, especially you, because you grew up in Seattle, you experienced the grunge era, and you were probably going through it. If you're 49, so you were in your early 20s.
I mean, in 91 was when all that was hitting, and I was just getting out of high school. So I've seen Alice in Chains booed off stage, so the Young Fresh Fellows would get on ahead of them. The Young Fresh Fellows was the biggest band in Seattle, and then all of a sudden things changed.
Wait, where can
I remember Lane Staley screaming. He was like, "This is fucking great music. You have no idea." And I'm like, "We're like, get the fuck." And now I love Alice in Chains.
Is the Young Fresh Fellows, like, are they on Spotify? Because I want to hear.
They're all over it. Yeah. No, they basically, half the band joined REM, became REM's touring band.
Oh.
But I had t-shirt, like the lineups of bands that were performing. The Young Fresh Fellows were always the headliner. I remember the Posies opening for them. The Posies, Ringo Starr bought a Posey song, and he folded into his repertoire. But obviously, then Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Nirvana, all of them came in, and the rest is history.
So do you have what was like the best grunge concert that you saw while you were in Seattle? Like, is there one that you were like, I saw Nirvana with Mother Love Bone and this band? Like, did you have any of that? Because I was
Love Bone was already disbanded.
Really? Because I was.
That guy died of a heroin overdose.
I was 14, 15 when grunge really, really blew up. And that's like music that has influenced me beyond influenced. It's like, I still wear flannels. Like I still wear Doc Martens. Like I love that area. So did you have like a perfect grunge moment? I know it's off topic, but I would just love to know.
I saw Pearl Jam the week they were on the cover of Time at the Key Arena in Seattle, and Versus had just come out, and I remember Eddie Vedder getting on stage going, "Hey, we're the most popular band in the world." And then they went right into the beginning of the album. I was like, yeah. And then I saw Nirvana. I saw their last show in Seattle. And that was pretty great.
That's incredible.
It was just, you realize it's one of those things where, if you go see the Rolling Stones or U2 or these bands that have been around, you're like, I expect to recognize every song. And with Nirvana, it was like they're 3 albums in, and they haven't been around too long, and it was good,
dude.
I'm trying to think of like when I went and saw. I saw the Young Fresh Fellows, I don't know, 35 times, and I'm trying to think of like. Yeah, I saw Alice in Chains I really end up loving Alice in Chains, and I remember they had big feathered hair, and I would go see them. And I was just like, this band is fucking great. And so much so that I was in a movie where they were like, what shirt do you want to wear? I'm like, I want to wear an Alice in Chains shirt the entire show. And the director let me do it. And I actually had to contact Alice in Chains and they agreed.
Oh, that's incredible.
So I get on. That was the most kind of like So I was at Bumper Shoot or the Folklife Festival in Seattle, which always took place at the Seattle Center, and it was during the late '80s, early '90s. It was every band would play, every band that you ever saw, like Mudhoney and the Screaming Trees, and they would. And I remember I showed up at like 10 a.m. I was there all day, and I had danced and gone to every concert. And I rode the bus home from Seattle to my suburb of Mercer Island. I had lost my shoes and my shirt, and I was
Nice.
just a half-naked high school kid going like, well, that was a good day. That was a good day. Yeah, that was probably the most sort of Seattle. Anyway, that was very
Dude,
long.
that's but that's so boss, dude. That's
Old
great.
man.
I love it. I love it. God, I wish I could have fucking been there. All right, last fact. The original idea for the album cover, when it was still to be called Get Back, was an updated photo of them posed in the same way, looking down from the stairwell of the AMI building. That is the cover of their 1963 debut, Please Please Me. In the first, they are fresh faced and in matching suits, and in the second, they had long hair, facial hair, and their individual styles. I had no idea about this. Both photos ended up respectively on the greatest hits compilations known as the Red and the Blue albums. I had
Yep.
no idea. I did know that there were those two contrasting pictures, but I think that's so cool. I love the album cover for Let It Be. I love them all looking,
Because they're all separate.
they're all separate, but there's that's my favorite version of John. Do you know what I mean? His hair's long. He doesn't have facial hair, but he's got the little like circle glasses that he wore. It's just fantastic, man. So I wanted to ask you.
I always like that shot. I mean, I love the album cover too, but I always like that shot of the four of them, and they all look pretty sullen. And they're against that huge wooden door. I think they used it for maybe Hey Jude, the weird album that they kind of put together for America, and they were like, because Hey Jude, I always like that shot because it really showed like another photo shoot, okay, and they could just tell how over it they were.
Yeah.
I just love how George was like, "Oh, I'm not touring. That is definitely not happening." And John's like, Paul's like, "Well, we could tour, but if they don't want to, that's fine. But it'd be fine. I would do it." And then cut to him doing Band on the Run and just running to every live show he can do.
Dude, he kills it, dude. I saw him. I mean, fuck, it might have been almost 20 years ago at this point. No, it was 2005, so 15 years ago. I think he did a 3.5-hour concert. And he's like probably early 70s, late 60s at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy, and he's phenomenal. So talking about styles, I wanted to ask you, what is your most embarrassing fashion moment or hairstyle?
Oh, you're looking at it. There's some hairstyles on Community where I was like, oh, hopefully people can get past that. I was very creative. If you look, boy, I'm trying to think of like a moment. I'm trying to think of because I was not, like these. There's a number of A-list, like a lot of A-list celebrities. They really fell on their face with some fashion choices. I never had that problem because I was never like the star of like a big movie. So I didn't have to. I didn't take that risk. But there was some of my hair choices, which were my doing, were pretty. Like I had bangs in Community, and that was probably not a good choice.
Jared, can you pull that up? Can you pull up? Why don't you pull up just Google Joel McHale bangs? I want to see.
Yeah,
this. You did frosted tips, didn't you?
No, I've never done that.
You've never done frosted tips?
I never Seacrest. But Seacrest has a beautiful mane of hair. I'm a balding man, so.
Dude, you have great hair.
Oh, now I do. It's much better than it used to be.
Dude, what do you do to stop it? Because I'm taking the finasteride and I'm doing the drops.
Taking Propecia?
Propecia, yeah.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to get a transplant, my friend.
It's not that bad yet. It's getting there though, but it's not horrible yet. But
You know what? Just get another tattoo that says I'm gonna
it's
get a
just
transplant.
of my hair. All right. All
Just
right.
tattoo up here. Just tattoo right there. Just get a tattoo of it. It's great.
Dude, I can't thank you enough for coming on, brother. So is there anything that you want to promote? Just go ahead.
I'd like to talk about let's talk about Meet the Beatles right now. No,
I got more to
no, I
go.
mean watch Card Sharks, watch when is this airing?
Wednesday.
Oh, soon.
Yeah.
Look out for a movie that I'm in called Happily. You're gonna like it. It's good times with the incredible Carrie Boucher.
Nice. Nice. Joel, this was fantastic, buddy. Thank you, bud.
No, you were fantastic.
Ooh.